Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for that great introduction. Thanks, Tony, for having me as well. I, yeah, I'll just jump right into it. Remember that cheap plastic baseball helmet you could win at the fair if you correctly guessed how fast you can throw? So I'm 17 years old, standing in my basement, completely nude, hands extended, giving the double thumbs up, with an Oakland A's toy plastic helmet held in place by only my erect penis. Michael gets me in frame and the disposable camera clicks. Now, I have to tell you, this opening scene might be a little misleading. I do identify as pansexual, and this is a bit of an outing story of sorts. But this story is not about me and Michael. It's actually about me and a girlfriend I had at the time. Maggie was a petite brunette with an infectious laugh and a sharp wit. We had been in a few plays together and just had that connection where attraction leads to dating, leads to long-term high school relationship. But I was a junior and Maggie was a sophomore. And I had this fear that people would see me as the creepy older guy manipulating and grooming a younger girl. And like, I really liked Maggie and we had a genuine and healthy relationship. But I was also extremely horny. So in my mind, everyone just knew that about me and assumed that was my only motivation for dating a younger girl, to pressure her into sex. And growing up, I had seen boys pressure girls into showing their boobs or touching their dick, and it made my stomach churn, like, and I knew I never wanted to pressure anyone. And later, I would write a joke in my stand-up comedy career that my biggest sexual fetish is verbal consent. And I made the point to have clear discussions about sexual contact with Maggie, which I didn't have a term for back then, but we were actively defining our boundaries and checking in with each other with ongoing verbal consent. And so we discussed and we found a balance and healthy sexual play, and we would go on dates and hang out with friends and wind up on somebody's basement couch and, let's just say, do the hand jive. And we had been dating for maybe 5 months, and Valentine's Day was coming up, and I was racking my brain for a gift. And for the first time, I was really letting someone see all the parts of me. I wanted a gift that reflected all of those facets. So the gift needed to be thoughtful and sexy and funny and a little bit over the top. So I decided I was going to take a series of classy nude photos for her. And I'm not talking about dick pics on a smartphone. I was planning on taking a series of tasteful nude photos with themes and props strategically placed in front of my manhood. And for the younger audience, believe me, at the time this was creative and pretty far out there. There was no selfie stick, there was no front-facing camera. I was either going to need an expensive camera with a timer and a tripod, or I was going to need some help. And luckily, I had a friend like Michael who agreed to help before I even finished the pitch. So first, we went to Walgreens to buy a disposable camera, and we could get it developed at the Walgreens Photo Center. But at the time, I was only 17, and so technically speaking, this was going to be child pornography. So we weren't sure we could actually get them developed. So we approached the man behind the counter at the photo center, and I asked, "Are you allowed to develop classy nude photos?" And he said, what do you mean? And I explained, well, I'm 17 and I'm going to take a series of nude photographs, and they aren't actually going to be naked pictures. Everything's going to be covered up. But since I'm not 18, are you allowed to really develop pictures like that? And in an almost bored and rehearsed manner, he replied, "As long as the private parts are covered, I can develop the pictures." And at the time, Michael and I were psyched that the project was a go. But looking back, how fucked up is it that the Walgreens Photo Center guy is bored of answering that question? How many people ask, which type of naked pictures of children can you develop? Jesus Christ. I'm talking about naked pictures of a child, and he responds like I asked where the toilet paper was. Like, yeah, toilet paper is aisle 4, and if you can't see the peen, the light is green. It's a fucked up world. Anyway, so we get right to work. And the first picture is, me standing behind a ping pong table with a paddle in front of my ping and pong. And then there's one of me with like my Fisher Price mini basketball hoop. And there's a basketball in front of my Magic Johnson. Well, all right, fine. Mini basketball. And then there's one me sitting in a fancy chair with a book and a pipe and one leg crossed over the other. And all the while, I'm just nailing these sultry looks for the camera. And and then our imagination really gets a hold of the project. And there's one in the snowy woods, and I'm just in boots with my foot up on a stump, and there's an axe covering my log. And then there's one from like a low angle where I'm sitting behind a chessboard and with the king covering my king. And and for the plastic baseball helmet, we thought we'd use some tape, and we were going to make it look like the baseball helmet was being held up by my baseball bat, but we couldn't get any of the tape to stick. And so I tell Michael, just go to the other room for a minute, and I'll tell you when to come back in. And when you get back in, take the picture quickly because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to stand at attention while you're staring at me. And like a true professional and an even truer friend, Michael nailed the photo. Then Michael is showing me some of these next ideas, and it hits me. They're all hilarious, but there's one more punchline to this joke. As Maggie's going to be flipping through these pictures, undoubtedly, she's going to be wondering who the hell took all these. So we decide that Michael is going to be in one of the pictures. And so we get him doing a bicep curl with the weight in front of his dumbbell. And so we get the pictures developed, 23 of me and one of Michael, and they turn out fantastic. I go on the Valentine's Day date and I give the gift to Maggie, and it could not have landed better. She thought they were sexy and hilarious, both legitimate and tongue in cheek. And when she got to the photo of Michael, her laughter became hysteria, and through tears, she said, "I was wondering this whole time who was taking these pictures." And I took a risk and I showed all of myself, figuratively speaking, and she loved it. And now, as an artist, I practice a rule: only create art that you believe in, because once you release it into the world, it takes on a life of its own and it's beyond your control. The next day, I come to find out that Maggie brought the pictures to school to show them off to her friends. And I was a little taken aback by this. And I explained to her that I sort of thought that this was a private thing between us, but I guess I never really explicitly laid down that boundary for us. And since I included a photo of Michael, I sort of opened the door for this being a shared with friends type of thing. And so, yeah, so I was okay with it. And a little time goes by, and one night I'm heading over to Maggie's house for dinner with her parents. And it's a nice enough evening, and they're asking a few more questions than usual, and I'm being my normal charming self. And I'm making some good jokes in it, but they're not really landing the way that I'm used to. And the dinner ends, and Maggie and I head downstairs ostensibly to watch TV. And Maggie gets this grave look on her face, and she says, "Murphy, there's something I have to tell you. The other day, I was working on some homework and my backpack was in the living room and I needed my calculator. And I asked my mom if she could grab the calculator out of my bag, and, she found the pictures." Uh, I went dead silent. I don't think I even breathed. She went on, "Don't worry, dinner went great." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Well, after seeing the pictures, they wanted to have dinner with you and make sure they hadn't misjudged you. And and you didn't tell me about this beforehand?" "Well, I didn't want you to get nervous and act weird," which in fairness, she was probably right about that. And I said, "Your parents found classy nude photos of me and invited me over to test and see if I was some pervert trying to corrupt their daughter, and you didn't want to warn me?" "No, they don't think you're a pervert. They actually understood it after I explained it. They just wanted to make sure you weren't pressuring me into sex or making me do things I wasn't comfortable with." And so it dawns on me, my girlfriend's parents just put me on trial, accusing me of my biggest fear, which was being the creepy older guy pressuring a younger girl into sex. And I was like, "What did you tell them?" And I asked, trying to stay quiet because they were still upstairs. And she said, "Well, I told them you're very respectful and nothing like that is going on. And this is just part of your sense of humor. And you're really just trying to be cute and funny and do something special for Valentine's Day." And then my mind starts to bounce like a pinball back and forth between complete indignation that she would use her backpack as a place to store these photos, and running over every word that I said in dinner, trying to see what I said. Well, I was unknowingly testifying against myself. And she said, "Really, baby, it's fine. When I told them you weren't pressuring me or anything, it was just your sense of humor, they completely understood, and they know you pretty well, and they can really see who you are. And as I left the basement that night and Maggie's parents could see my face, and they finally knew that I knew that they knew that I knew that they knew. And despite the most uncomfortable thanks for dinner, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that I've had in my entire life, everything really was okay. They trusted their daughter and they really saw a creative, over the top, horny teenage boy who would honestly never take advantage of their daughter. And the moral of the story is be yourself and let the world see you, because most likely the world already sees it. And if you're venturing into new sexual spaces, set clear and definitive boundaries. And if it involves naked pictures, please make sure the recipient understands everything it takes to keep them truly private. Thank you.